Let's take you to Wall Street now, where the Dow inched up just 0.02% as the Federal Reserve decides to hold its key interest rate steady. Today marks the first rate decision of the year, and it comes amid weeks of turmoil at the Fed. The Supreme Court, meanwhile, currently weighing whether President Trump can actually fire Fed Governor Lisa Cook. And the Department of Justice is investigating Fed Chair Jerome Powell. I want to bring in CBS News coordinating producer Richard Escobedo, joining us live. Richard, thank you for being with us. You were in the room with Powell when he delivered his remarks today. What do consumers need to know about all this? How is it going to impact our wallets?
Bottom line, things stay the same for at least another month. And Chair Powell said that the Fed's decision today to leave rates unchanged is largely because the job market is held steady. It's stabilized is the word that he used. And he also said that Americans in the long run feel that inflation will come down closer to that 2% target that the Fed really tries to zero in on and maintain. It's at about 2.8% right now. It's worth noting that two voting members wanted to cut rates today. That was Stephen Mirren, who President Trump appointed to the Fed board last year, and also Christopher Waller, who was on the short list to become the next Fed chair. One thing I do want to highlight, though, is I asked the Fed chair, Powell, about instability outside the U.S. I asked him about things that could happen beyond our shores and how that would affect the U.S. economy. And here's what he had to say.
I want to look outside the U.S. about what's happening outside our shores and how it impacts the U.S. Canada's Prime Minister said last week that there's been a rupture in the global order, and I wonder how you're thinking about geopolitical risk as it relates to the U.S. economy.
I can't comment on that speech or statement or anything like that. You know, geopolitical risk for us is, a lot of it is around energy, oil. And so far, we haven't, for all the turmoil, oil prices have come down, as you know, and so we don't really see much. Longer than that, it's trade, and the trade, the economy, our economy has pulled through pretty well, you'd have to say, given the very significant changes in trade policy. The U.S. economy has pushed right through.
He pointed there really to energy prices, two things that can drive up inflation and really make the Fed's job harder. Energy prices and also food prices. Those are just volatile things that the Fed doesn't really control. Trade, another one of those. And so you get an insight, you get really a good idea of how the Fed's thinking about some of these shocks outside the U.S. and how it may complicate their jobs.
Richard, last week Jerome Powell attended oral arguments in the Supreme Court case over President Trump's efforts to fire Fed Governor Lisa Cook. Today, Powell was asked why he attended that and his reaction to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent criticizing the move as political. Here's what Powell had to say.
So let me start with, I don't respond to comments by other officials, whoever they may be. It's just not appropriate to do that. I will tell you why I attended. I would say that that case is perhaps the most important legal case in the Fed's 113-year history. And as I thought about it, I thought it might be hard to explain why I didn't attend.
Richard, what's the significance of that message there from Powell, knowing that he's also the target of President Trump's criticism?
The significance is that the Fed does not wade into politics, ever, full stop, period, the end. The Fed is an apolitical institution, but it is in a political town. And you heard the Fed chair say there that those arguments the other week, him going to them, was actually precedented because Paul Volcker did it in the 80s. And it comes in this environment in which there is pressure on the Fed, which really challenges the idea of Fed independence. And later on, I want to read something that the Chair Powell said that kind of gets at the importance of what he's laying out here. And he said the point of independence isn't to protect policymakers. Every advanced economy in the world has come around to this common practice. And he said it's a good practice that serves the people well. So his point there is that Fed independence, monetary policy independence, their ability to set interest rates without political interference actually helps consumers in the long run. And that's one of the reasons why he went to those oral arguments.
Richard Escobedo, thank you so much.